Hello, my fellow comic book collectors. Today is Wednesday, and on Wednesdays I do my Q&A video where I answer your questions. So I got a lot of questions from last week. What I do is I'll put a video out and people ask me new questions, and then the following week I'll answer them. So if you want to have your question answered, just put it in the comments below and I will answer it next week. So just anything you want, I'll try to do my best to answer your questions. This week, we got some really great questions. So much stuff that I'm going to show in this video. I'm going to show some Vampirella, some pre-code stuff, some really great specs, and some Golden Age action comics. So, a lot of stuff going to be in this video. So let's get into it. First comes from Comic Book Ninja. I understand the main draw for Vampirella is her sex appeal. However, do you actually read most of your Vampirella books? What are your top 5 Vampirella stories? Warren to Dynamite era could be included. Okay, so the Dynamite ones I don't actually read very often. I've read a few of them, but not many, to tell you the truth. But I did read the entire run from 1 to 112 of the Warren Vampirellas. So I've read that whole entire collection. And in there was it's kind of interesting. There's a few stories that were kind of cool that I liked. So there was the story around her origin. I thought that was kind of funny. It was kind of campy. I actually did a video where I read it on way back when. Like a couple of years ago. That's how long it's been. But it's it's kind of a campy story. She basically, the astronauts come over to her Draculoon, which is where she's from, and she's like pleasantly surprised because at that point her planet's kind of running dry. All the blood that runs the rivers, like, and it's blood rivers on their planet, have run dry. And these astronauts come along and she's like, oh wow, their blood, their bodies are filled with our water. So she's like so thirsty, she drinks these poor astronauts. So I thought that was kind of cute. Then there's some really good ones as well, where there's sort of like these the stories with Pantha were quite good. And the stories with where she meets Van Helsing and Adam Van Helsing. So it's a father and son, and they basically are hunting her at first, but then she kind of falls in love with Adam, and they find a cure for her with this blood serum stuff that she takes. And that's in like issue number 7 of the series, because before that, really Vampirella was more like the Crypt Keeper. She didn't really have stories. She was kind of like a character that would just have like different stories in her thing, and she'd be like the narrator. But then after number 7, they sort of gave her own stories, and then actually that's how it ran for the rest of the Warren issues. And I enjoyed, she'd always run out of her serum whenever she needed to kill some bad guy. It'd be like she goes into her little frenzy and she'd kill whoever it is the bad guy was. I always thought that was funny. The other storyline that I liked was actually in Harris. They had a really cool character called Hemrich. And basically the reason I thought he was a kind of a cool character was I always like a character that's a great foil for the hero. So if you're if it's like Superman, it'd be like really great if he went up against a guy that's made out of kryptonite, like that kind of level of foil. Well, Hemorrhage was kind of like that for Vampirella. His power, his ability was he could control blood. So kind of a great foil for a vampire. So I thought that was kind of a cool storyline. So yeah, so those are some of the ones that I read and enjoyed. As I said, I didn't really read the more recent stuff because I collect the covers. I like the covers, but yeah, her appeal is mainly sex appeal. So, but I do read the stories every so often. Okay. Next one is from Mustang Orbit, and this is also Vampirella related, so it's kind of funny. If you have the time, any video dedicated to Vampirella would be appreciated. Well, I am planning to do a video where I'm going to show bits of my Warren collection into different parts. So my complete Vampirella collection from Warren, my complete Eerie collection from Warren, my complete creepy famous monsters, so forth. I'm going to do videos dedicated to each part of those collections. It's like several thousand books, so I'm debating about how to go about doing it. It's my room is getting a bit messy right now, so it's really hard to sort of organize things in order to do that. But I'm planning on doing that. Now, I like the classic Warren era, he writes. Do you collect the Vampirella as well as Eerie and or creepy archive hardcover books? I don't collect the hardcover books, to tell you the truth, but I have the originals. I have the complete creepy, eerie Vampirella runs from Warren. And just for you, I'm going to give you a little taste of my Vampirella collection, since you asked the question. I figured, hey, I should show something. So I'm going to show you Vampirella 1 through 20 of the Warren series. So this is, I've got to start with number 1. So this is number 1. This is a nice Frank Frazetta cover. It's one of my favorite Vampirella covers, actually. I just really love it. So just Vampirella number 1. And then we got, actually, flip it up. Then we got Vampirella number 2. This is another kind of cool cover. And actually, this one's quite rare. Number 3 is actually one of the rarest Warren Vampirellas. This is Vampirella number 3. Then we got another Vampirella number 4. We got another Frazetta. This is Vampirella number 5. Number 5. As I said, she didn't really have a major role in her own title until later. So this is number 6. And we got another Frazetta, number 7. Trying to show it. Let's get a bit of glare. Just trying to show it. Then we got number 8. And number 9. A cool cover. And number 10. Number 11. It's a famous cover, actually. Pretty famous cover. I think this recently, I think there was a painting of this that sold for like a huge amount of money recently. So kind of a cool one. It's a low grade. Then we got number 12. And number 13. And 14. I'm trying to show it so it doesn't glare too much. Actually, I always like the back of some of these with the Vampirella, and it shows the Warren, the Aurora model kits. I always like that. I always like those ads. Actually, that's, and then it's number 15. Another cover I really like. And number 16. Dracula. Actually, the stories around Dracula were quite good too. It's kind of a nemesis in a weird way. Number 17. Number 18. Really like that cover. Then 19, where it's like sort of the super special where they show all the covers. And number 20. Can have a cool cover. You can see how much I paid. I have the original price stickers on it. I'd always negotiate. I'd always get like a whole bunch. Like that's $10 Canadian. And then what I would do is I'd get like maybe 30 books. And then I'd say, oh, can you give me like 20%, 30% discount? I'd always negotiate. So I probably paid about $5 for this. Yeah. So that was 1 through 20. I will, in a later video, I'll do the whole run, and I'll show you some of the foreign versions of Vampirella as well. So look for that in a future video once I get around to it, like, which might be a while, sorry. But look for that in the future. Okay, so the next one is from Gantz. What would be your 5 must-have modern age comics that you would recommend to any comic book collector? So one of the things I actually really enjoy about Alex the Comic Hoarder is he talks about foundational books, like books that you have to have for like to have sort of like a core books. Generally his books are on the lower end in terms of the ones he was recommending. I kind of want to show you what I think are the key books from this generation, like the current generation, like the last 20 years. And so these are the books I think are not just fundamental, but the ones that would be like the Action 1 or the Amazing Fantasy 15 kind of level books, I think, for this generation. So that's kind of what I consider a fundamental or foundational book. So I'm going to show you some of the ones. There's actually more that I could include, but I'll show you the first one. This is Young Avengers, number 1. And this is huge. This book, you know, has like the first appearance of Kate Bishop, and it has a lot of this second generation Marvel characters. And, you know, so this to me is equivalent to Avengers 1. You know, it's kind of that next generation of superheroes for Marvel. So to me, this is like kind of a key book. I mean, it's an expensive book. All the ones that I'm going to show are expensive books because I do see them as the big books for this generation. So this is Young Avengers number 1. Next one I would show, and it's in the plastic, so I'm going to take it out of the plastic, is Walking Dead number 1. Now, Walking Dead number 1 I see as a kind of a key book for this generation because it's got legs to it. So, you know, they've had, like, I think it ran for 7 or 8 seasons, maybe 9 seasons. It also had spin-off series, 2 or 3 spin-off series. You know, it's done reasonably well. And it's one that not only the generation now will enjoy and appreciate, but it's one that will be appreciated in the future. So definitely this is a big book that I think, you know, is a foundational book, like that, you know, people will say, oh, that's like, oh, I wish I could have bought it back in, you know, back in 2022, you know. I think this is definitely a big book that people will love. So Walking Dead number 1. Next one is kind of an interesting one. I chose it because I think it's one that has potential to be something great. And it's Amazing Spider-Man number 4. And this is the first appearance of Silk. Kind of a character that I believe has the potential to be something great. I mean, it's already a pretty pricey book, but you know, she's already has her own series. I have a feeling this book could be something in the future where it's bigger. I don't think it's hit that core status yet, but I do see this as a potential to be that way. A character that is loved, and when you have that kind of situation, I think they have that potential to be a pretty big character in the future. So I would say, you know, this is one of those books. So all these books, like there's books that I could have mentioned that are 2000. These are all post 2000. So what I mean by that is I could have mentioned first Harley Quinn and all those ones, but I'm not doing those ones. I'm trying to make it more really close to the modern age as possible. So this is from 2014. So I'm trying to keep it fairly modern. Okay, next one is kind of an interesting one that I think is kind of gone down a bit right now. It's kind of not in its high point, but I do think it's like a really important character, really fundamental book for DC. And I do see it as one that's going to be big in the future. So DC, we think of big characters for DC, like as I mentioned, Harley Quinn. I think of Joker. I think of Penguin, Riddler, all those kind of rogues gallery for Batman that are kind of fundamental characters for the DC franchise. And it's very rare that they have like some new character that you can say, wow, that's like the new bad guy that we gotta kind of pay attention to. Like in the 90s, it would have been Bane, I guess. This character, I think, has that core status, that key status that they can use in the future. And I think it'll be one that will resonate with people and will have that Dark Knight element where it's really, really like a serious story. And I think people will enjoy it. So the character is Batman Who Laughs. This is the first appearance of Batman Who Laughs. Teen Titans 12. And you can see the Batman Who Laughs in the background there, right there. And just a character that I think has a lot of potential. So I it's right now, it's a kind of an affordable book to pick up. It's kind of, not as hot as it used to be. But it is definitely a book that I would recommend picking up. So that's Teen Titans number 12. Now, that came out 2017. Now, the very last book is kind of obvious. If you're going to pick 5 big books, well, this is the biggest of all the books from the modern age. And it's a character that is kind of the new Spider-Man. He is like the next generation of Spider-Man. Well-established, well-loved, huge following. And I feel like this book is kind of like the AF-15 of the modern age. So this is Ultimate Fallout number 4. Now there's variants that are even bigger. Like I'd say if you can get the variant, that's even better. Actually, I wish I had like pressed mine. It's like, it doesn't have any spine ticks or anything, but it got a 9.2 because I didn't press it. So this is one of those books where I could probably get it regraded and get like a 9.8 even. Like, there's nothing wrong with it. It's kind of annoying. So yeah, so this is Ultimate Fallout number 4. And this is the first appearance of Miles Morales, the big character of the modern age. I think he's maybe the biggest character that's been released in the last 30 years. So and he's from 2011 and 2011. And I picked this up way back when for $50. So I've done well on this book. So yeah, kind of a great one. So yeah. So those are my 5 choices for books. And there's others that I could have mentioned, like a first appearance of Riri Williams, first appearance of Miss Marvel. Those are ones that also I'd say. First appearance of Spider-Gwen. Definitely another book that I think has that big potential. So there's other ones that I could have mentioned. So I picked 5, but there's others that I could have mentioned easily. Okay, so next question is from Martin Bow. First question, what is the most expensive comic that you own? Well, I've shown it so many times, but I'll show it again since I have to get my money's worth. and it's my All-Star 8. My All-Star 8 is my most expensive book. It's in a 2.5 blue label. This book goes from anywhere from 30,000 to 45,000, so it's kind of in that range. I think has a lot more potential to go up. Definitely underrated book in many ways, mainly because it doesn't have it's the first appearance of Wonder Woman, and she's not on the cover. If she was on the cover, this would be $1 million book. But she's not on the cover, so it's a thousands of dollar book. But this is definitely my most expensive book in my collection. I have a few that are close now. There's a bunch that are getting close to it, but it is definitely one that has gone through the roof. That's the first part of the question. And and then he writes, not the comic that you paid the most for. I actually didn't pay the most for that one. I paid about equivalent to about 14,000 for that. So it was expensive, but it wasn't the most expensive. My most expensive was actually my Wonder Woman 1 right there. So that was my most expensive book. I paid 18,000 for that one. But the one that you currently owned, which is increased in value. Second question, if you had to sell your collection and keep only one comic, which would it be and why? Okay, so I'm only allowed to keep the one book, or can I like sell my whole collection and then rebuild? Because I'd rebuild, really, like that's the first thing I would do. If it's the latter, where I can only keep one book and sold the rest of my collection, maybe I needed money or whatever, like I have to get rid of all my comics and I can only keep one comic, I'd keep this one. I'll show it. It's right in front of me. My Zombie Tramp #1. I know this is a weird one. People are like, oh, you got all these grails behind you and then you pick Zombie Tramp. The reason I picked this book is it would be impossible to replace. It's a ghost. It's a hard book to find. I would never get it again. And I would be very sad not to have it in my collection. The rest I can probably find. I could source out, and I have ways of getting the rest of them. But this book I couldn't get, and it's not about money at that point. It's a matter of finding it. This is a book that I would probably not be able to find again. So this is the book I would choose, and I kind of think it's sexy too. So, so that would be the choice. It's a weird choice, I know, especially after just showing an All-Star 8, which is an insane book. But for me, it's a hard book to replace. So that'd be the one I would keep and sell the rest. But I really wouldn't want to sell the rest. So if that makes any sense. Okay, so yeah, because and then I would work and get the rest later. I'd totally do that. Okay, so the next question is open by chance. Hello, I'd like to see some pre-code propaganda books, as well as hear some recommendations for that genre. Okay, so I'm going to show you some really great books. So I brought like a collection of pre-code war-related propaganda books. Now, I wanted to kind of explain a little bit about war propaganda because there's a lot to know about it. The first thing that collectors will go after, and it's not necessarily propaganda as much as encouraging patriotism and encouraging people to contribute to that war effort. That was a big thing. That like part of propaganda is scaring people about the enemy, but also encouraging them to provide financial support for the war efforts. And one of the ways that they did that was through war bonds. So I think a really great cover that kind of highlights that point of war bonds is the first cover appearance of Superboy. He's selling war bonds, okay? And they're talking about war bonds and how, it's a really good cause and all this kind of thing. And I think that's a really, really great one. Now, there's some that if you're interested in this war bond style, There's some Disney ones that are quite good, where they really get into that war bonds, uh, you know, propaganda. I'm not sure which issue numbers, but it's like Disney stories. You have to look for it. Disney comics and stories, and I forgot what issue number, but they're like big. They have like a big war bond thing on them, and they're really collectible. Okay, next thing that I was going to show is there were certain titles like Rangers comics, Fight comics, like from Fiction House, that were really designed to promote the anti-war message. um, the well, promote anti whatever, like anti-Japanese or anti whatever. Um, and I'm going to show you just one of those. This is like one of the things that they would do in the Golden Age is they would have like these kind of like hooded figures, and they would try to show the hooded figures doing evil things, and like they would show them with the swastika, and you'd see the brave American soldiers coming in to save some maiden that's in trouble. Okay, I think that's kind of a great form of propaganda, that you got these evil uh, like Nazis doing evil things. Um, and some really great hooded figure ones would be Suspense 3, which is an insane, most expensive book from the Golden Age, other like non superhero related. You got a whole bunch of books in that field. Another example of a great fight one is they always want to show the like Japanese or Nazis doing bad things. And in this one, they got the woman strapped to the front of a tank. So that's they would kind of try to show them as doing horrific things in order to encourage people to hate the Japanese or the Nazis. So that was one trick that they would do, is like kind of showing them do evil things to poor women. It's always women that or children. And there's some really great ones with children that they do. I'm thinking like what is it? Exciting Tales. I forgot what issue number it is, but the one where they're selling candy to the kids that has poison in it. There's some really kind of things like that. Also, a lot of the early Schomburg stuff from Captain America had some really great anti-Nazi propaganda covers. Another title that I could have brought, I didn't bring, was Young Allies. That was purely designed to be a war propaganda book where you have these children fighting the Nazis and doing all this kind of crazy stuff, where they show Nazis doing horrific things and you see the Young Allies heroically fighting against them. Another example of a war, like a Marvel book doing some propaganda, is you got this kind of situation where you see the Japanese torturing their captives, and you got the hero coming in and rescuing them. That's a really common theme within war propaganda books. This is Miss Fury number 5, and it's just a really great war propaganda book. Actually, there's one I'd like to grab. I'm going to grab another one and show it to you as well. That kind of fits that same genre. But here's another example of another thing that's really popular from that war propaganda kind of thing, where they would have the good guy punching a Nazi. That was a really common theme. You get the hero punching a Nazi, and here's an example of that. You got the hero and he's punching a Nazi, and they always had the Nazis looking kind of sinister, or doing horrible things, right? But this is he's got like the dynamite and stuff like that, and obviously the Nazi's going to blow everybody up or something bad. So this is a good example. This is Zip 35. It's actually kind of a key appearance not for Nazi reason, but it's a key appearance of a very innocent character, Ginger. Like, just happens to be in that book. I want to show you a couple more. I want to show a couple more that I got to grab, but I want to show you how a lot of these books were not just targeted towards adults. Obviously, comics are generally geared towards children, Well, they would actually go right down in terms of the age groups that they would target. And they would target young children with very strong propaganda messages. And one of the things that they would do, and this is a good example, this is comedy comics number 19. Any of these books that are targeted towards children are super collectible. This has like Tojo and Hitler, and they're done as like different animals. Okay, and you got the little character. They've attached them to the railroad, and they also have dynamite. That was another funny thing, that they always try to find multiple ways to kill like some character. You know, they have like the train's gonna run over her. She's gonna die that way, but there's also the TNT. So, you know, the double kill. So I think that's always quite funny. But this is a very strong war propaganda book, because you got that punching the Nazi, you got the them doing some atrocity, and it's targeted towards kids, which I think is kind of interesting. Another example of a book that targets kids and that war propaganda. One of the things that they would do with war propaganda is, what you want to do is make your enemies seem not only vicious and evil and all this kind of stuff, but you want to belittle them. You want to kind of corrupt, like make them look like silly, or like just like something that is like parodied as people. And this is a good example of that for children again. This is Super Duck number 1. And we got Hitler being squeezed by Super Duck and Tojo. And just a really great cover where you see them just being like these kind of characters of themselves. So definitely, definitely anything with Hitler is a very collectible book from the Golden Age. There's some sensation comics that are a good example of that, where they have like these bowling pins that have like the different Nazi figures on them. I'm going to show you one more that I have to grab if I can find it. Like, I don't see it handy. Let's see if I have it handy. Yes, I do. Okay, cool. I have the other propaganda cover that I really wanted to show, and it's really more about showing you what elements to look for when looking for propaganda books, because you have to kind of do some research. It is like one of those things where you search like Nazi covers or like war covers, and this is a good example of like these books command big money because they are like war propaganda ones. This is Fighting Yank number 20, no, number 10. Number 10. And it just shows the Nazis doing a bunch of horrific things. You got them with all the torture implements. You got the guy in the chair, like all bound. You got the prominent Nazi flag up here, and you got all the Nazis and the Nazi doctor with the hypodermic needle. And you got all these elements that collectors will look for. Another thing that collectors will look for is like hot pokers or things like that, where they're torturing torturing the poor guy or girl. Generally, it's better if it's a girl getting tortured. Just a thing for collectors. And also this one, and the reason I wanted to show it is it also has that war bond element. So not only do they have the whole propaganda component, but they're also saying, hey, donate to the war fund. Don't, you know, it's kind of interesting that way. And this one was really cool because it has like the torture elements, has the hypodermic needle, has a dagger, has like poison. Like they went full out, you know. And then it also has like the guys in the background with the guns. It's really important when they show the war propaganda stuff that you get ones with the armbands, with the Nazi armbands. That's kind of a key that collectors will look for. This one also says Gestapo, which is, you know, all these kind of elements that people look for. Okay, so so those are some of my war propaganda books. I actually have a ton more. I have more that I could actually. There's one right there that I'm looking at as I'm saying all this stuff. And there was a bunch that were from the different series, like Fight Comics, Rangers Comics. You really look for books that were published between 1941 and up to 1945. Those books will generally be the more war propaganda books, and they're pretty interesting. Okay, so hopefully that was useful. So the next one is from Sindicato Megalito. What? No double cover? Okay, so last time he asked me to show a double cover. I didn't have any double covers in my collection. I surely thought you would have some. Okay, next question then. It's known that artists have a real hard time drawing hands and feet. What are your best women foot covers? I think of Catwoman #1 from 2018, great foot cover. Okay, so I brought a bunch of foot covers. so, um, and I'll show you the one that he's referring to. And actually, I agree. Her feet look a bit big, though, in my opinion. But this is Catwoman #1 from 2018. I think her foot looks a bit big, but this is definitely a great foot cover. So I noticed that a couple tricks that artists will do, because they do have problems drawing feet. I've noticed this many, many times. What they'll do is they'll show either the person in shoes. Like I actually have a comic where she's going to go swimming and she's wearing shoes as she's diving into the water, just because they don't want to draw the feet. A lot of the time they're wearing shoes. That's one of the tricks. Another trick that they'll do is they'll crop it right at where you would see the feet. So the feet are just outside of that, outside of the image, so that they don't have to draw the feet, because people have problems drawing feet. It's all the little toes, like 5 toes. That's why, like in cartoons, it's always 4. It looks, it's easier to draw 4 toes than 5 toes. That extra little toe always causes people trouble. But I'm going to show you some great foot covers. Not all of these are women, so I'm sorry about that, but I'm going to show you 2 with women, and one is a little bit kinky. I have to say that. But this is a Betty Page variant cover, and it's just I think the feet are really well done. So if you can see that, I'm not sure which issue this is, but it's one that I saw that had really great bondage cover, and Betty Page kind of thought it was a little weird, and has really great feet. I'm not sure if you can see that. Okay, hopefully you could see that. And then another one of the artists that I really loved from the Golden Age is L.B. Cole. And actually, he did a pretty great job of drawing feet. So this is Terrors of the Jungle, #6. And you can see she has pretty great feet. The way he drew the feet is quite good. Okay, so I thought that was quite good. And I'm going to show you a guy's foot. Hey, a little bit of diversity in the feet that I show. Look at the feet, not the overall drawing, but I think the feet in this, I like the way the feet are drawn, because it really shows the dynamics of feet, if that makes sense. Usually when artists even try to draw feet, they always do a pointed toe. And it's a much easier thing to draw a pointed toe. But generally, our toes are kind of moving around. That's just the way we are. Especially if we're running or doing things, our toes will kind of do weird stuff. And I think this kind of captures that. And I think it's a really great foot drawing. So you look at the feet. Don't look at the rest. Just look at the feet. Look at the way his toes kind of pointed. I think it really captures that toe element and the foot element. I think it's quite well done. So this is like Crown Comics. This is I'm not even sure who the artist is, because there's some controversy about who the artist is, but it's kind of a key book. This is Crown Comics #3. I just think the foot is really well done. So that is some of the foot covers. Like, it's actually quite hard to find foot covers. I have a bunch of others that I could have shown, but I thought these ones were kind of good in terms of representing the way feet are done. Somebody criticized Alex Schomburg on a previous video about the way he drew feet, and I recommend you actually watch my video response to, does Alex Schomburg know how to draw feet? And it was in one of my previous Q&A videos. And I showed some great foot covers in that as well. So you can check out that as well. Okay, so those are those questions. Next. Okay. So the next question comes from Batman Loves Comics. Hey, I was wondering, since I'm going to a con that it's heavy on Golden Age, that are there any entry level Golden Age Superman action comics? Okay, so I guess he collects action comics and Superman titles. And the funny thing is, I was going to do a video in this, like I'm doing right now, where I was going to answer that question. But somebody actually responded to the question in the discussion in the comments, and I thought his answer was quite good. So this is from Cha5 answered the question. I'm going to read his answer, and I'm also going to show some stuff too. Cha5 wrote, what kind of price are you looking for on your entry level Golden Age Superman action comics? Probably most affordable ones are from 1938 to 1945. That would be some action comics from number 64, the first appearance of Toyman, which goes for about $219 in a 2.0. And then others that are in the 2.0 range, so low entry level books. These are entry level, are from Action Comics 65 to 70, which goes for around 180. 71 to 79, which goes for around 150. 80, which is number 80, which is the second appearance and first cover appearance of Mr. Mixoplex, goes for 171. I actually kind of doubt that. I looked up, like, because that's a book I would want, like number 80, Action Comics 180, or just 80, I should say. I think it goes for around 300-400. Just so you know, I've been trying to find that book, but maybe in a low grade it could go that low, but I don't think so. Then 80 to 88, 81 to 88 go for around 130. 89, which is a classic rainbow cover, really psychedelic cover as well, with Superman looking like he's having a LSD trip, goes for 161. Number 90 goes for 129. 91 goes for 110. For Superman entry level Golden Age books, these are also in the 2.0 condition. They're listed by Overstreet. You got Superman 27 to 29, which go for around $200. Superman 30, which is the first appearance of Mr. Mixoplex. I'm not saying his name correctly, just so you know, but that's me saying it. Goes for 400, not exactly entry level there. Then we got Superman 31 to 40, which go for around $160. So those are some of the ones that he recommended, and I think that's a great list. Great list. I'm going to show you some that I got that are kind of entry level. Again, they're more on the high end. So he mentioned Superman 30, and it's more in that, I would say, like the more closer to $1,000 range than the 450. I paid 400 for this book, but that's because it is restored. Okay, so generally these books go for a lot of money. Yeah, it is what it is. It's Golden Age first appearance. It's going to go for a bit more money. But there was one that I did pick up, another restored book. It's low grade restored, so the price really doesn't really get impacted by the restoration. Is Action 41. This is the first appearance of Vigilante, the original Vigilante with the kind of the gunslinger Vigilante. And this goes for, I paid around $400 or $500 for this. So again, not quite entry level, but not too bad, not too crazy. There are books that are obviously in the thousands of dollars. And really, that's one great thing about comics in general. As you get a lower and lower grade, well, it becomes more and more affordable. So so that's generally what you do is if you want some big book, well, generally you have to kind of look at the grade and get the lower grades, get those entry level books. I find that a lot of the golden age, there's still some entry level books that you can pick up where it's in that 2.0 range. And a 2.0, even though it sounds bad, it's not that bad. You can get some pretty solid looking books uh, from the golden age that are 2.0s. And I need to explain that just because I really think that people get a little bit deceived by this concept of 2.0 versus like a 9.8. Like, you don't get 9.8s in the golden age. But what a 2.0 really means is two things. Two things that you have to kind of understand. One is often it means that the cover is detached. Now, in the golden age, especially during the war, they would often use just one staple, or they would use like kind of small staples where the staple wouldn't quite grasp the centerfold or wouldn't quite hold the book together. It was just war times. They had issues. Okay, they just didn't have the supplies. So what would happen is a lot of the covers would get detached. And a lot of the time the centerfold would pop out too. That's another issue with the golden age. You get a lot of qualified books from the golden age. So the point is, you can get a book that looks really great, and especially if it's in a slab, but it's a 2.0, and it's because the cover has detached. Another thing that will happen is often the covers will split. You'll get spine splits, and that's really kills the grade. That brings it down to a 1. But what'll happen is when you put it in the slab, you don't see that spine split. So you can have a really well presenting 1.0 where the spine is completely split. Do you really care if it's slabbed? Presents well, that's really all that matters. So something to consider when looking at golden age books in general, not just action or Superman, but in general, that you look for you can get those more affordable books that present really well. Okay, so that has been my Q&A for this week. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed my answers. And if you have comments, where you disagree or agree with whatever I put out, put it in the comments below. I love that discussion. So, and feel free to ask me whatever questions you have, and I'll answer them next week. Thanks again. Bye for now.